I guess for front row, wait.
I'd like to welcome you all to the information meeting for the North Dakota Public Works and Fire Department on Thursday, August 21st, 2025. And if you haven't had a chance to sign it in, please do. This time we're going to turn it over to Don Stewart, who is the project manager. Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. We're really thrilled to have you here to come and be part of this. Introductions are in order from the North Station Building Replacement Committee. Maria is here, and Carl and Tracy and Mike. Carl, of course, also serves as the chair of the select board. And then Matt Reed, who is our architect for the project for AES Northeast. He is also a firefighter. So we're doubly blessed to have a person who is helping us with the design of the building and is also a firefighter. So we want to take you through about a 15-minute overview of the project. So we've got them up here. You can see them over here, but volunteer fire department, they respond to about 100 calls a year, including mutual aid for the surrounding communities. They go as far as, Mike, I think as far as Rouse's Point.
The Bend, Rouse's Point, we've been to Canada, obviously Grand Isle County.
Right, so they respond to calls all over our neighboring area. They handle fire calls, smoke alarms, accidents, water and ice rescues. They are staffed by 16 trained firefighters who are all volunteers, and there is an auxiliary of about 15 volunteers who help us support fundraising. Our Public Works Department, Tracy Jewer is the head of Public Works, maintains all the roads in North Huron except for Route 2. They handle the plowing, the sanding, the summer mowing, summer town mowing, and the facility maintenance. They maintain all the properties, including the 5 cemeteries, and staffed by 2 full-time employees. So our current building, this is actually a pretty nice picture of the building. If you've been by, or God forbid, you've been inside, we have an old building, and our building is been there for 52 years. It is extremely undersized for current equipment. When equipment was made years ago for plowing and for fire departments, the equipment was much smaller than it is now. It is used by both the Public Works and the Volunteer Fire Department. It has seriously outlived its usefulness. These style of metal buildings were when they were originally designed, were really designed for agricultural purposes. And the idea was that the building would be an inexpensive way for a farmer to have a building that was enclosed. They were not well insulated. They were not strongly constructed. They were designed to last about 30 years. We are at 52 years on this. So we have more than gotten our money's worth out of this building. So the fire department has no storage at all. They are currently using offsite storage and paying for that. The roof of the building leaks. It's poorly insulated. Some of the ceiling is falling down. The siding is rusting. And it in no way meets any of the current building codes. But more than anything else, the building has simply outlived its usefulness. So the timeline of the project, the recognition of the need came about 10 years ago. And the initial steps, Weeman Lampe Architects was hired to begin the design of a new fire station. In 2017, the North Station Building Replacement Committee was established. And since then, the vision began to expand and then to encompass the possibility also of a municipal building up in that location, which eventually that didn't happen. Our municipal building this building became our municipal building. But the, concept was designed and a local architect named Robert Konecko did the initial design for both the fire department building and for the public works building. So he did the base design. It's the same, it's roughly the same design that we are using now. And in 2018, the land was purchased adjacent to the garage in support and anticipation of the project. So the town has owned the land for now 7 years. The town office was, as I said, was removed from the design and after its relocation here to the community center. In 2024, preliminary plans for the fire station Public Works were approved by the users. So they were designed by Robert Konecko. They determined floor plan, size of buildings, those kind of things. And then since then, starting earlier this spring, we've had significant advancement in the engineering design and the planning. This is underway. We have our architect, Matt Reed here, who is overseeing the architectural work, and also there's a structural component to the project that's working under him. We have Krebs and Lansing, who has for a long time been the town engineer. They are doing the civil design. And we have other engineers working with us as well. Our plan is that we met yesterday, Tuesday, and to look at what are called 75% drawings. So the architect and the engineer, the civil engineer, came and we sat down with the users. We looked at the drawings and which we consider to be about 75% complete. They're not ready for bid. There's a lot of detail work that has to go on, but we've got the gist of the project clearly outlined. And we looked at that and we were able to determine that this is what we want to build. So from now until, assuming, we've got the bond, we'll talk about the bond separately, but the process is we'll continue to refine the drawings. We will have an estimate done of the cost to build the project. We will further define the mechanical and electrical design. Electrical, everybody knows what that is. You're looking at the lights and the fans and everything else, but the mechanical design includes plumbing, heating, air conditioning. So those designs will be advanced over the next approximately 2.5 months, somewhere around the 1st of November. And I've been checking among general contractors, and somewhere around the 1st of November, we will have general contractors begin to bid on the project. And before Thanksgiving, we will have hard bids brought in. In other words, we're not hiring a construction manager. We are going to go out to the market to find out what the real value of this project at this point in time, this exact project is going to be. And we're going to get a fixed price to build the two buildings. So in December, we will award the contract to the contractor. So work on drawings. Drawings go out somewhere around the 1st of November. Around Thanksgiving time, we'll have bids back sometime in December. We'll have an opportunity to select. We'll meet with the contractor who's the apparent low bidder. We'll make sure his bid is complete. And then we will, the select board will hire that contractor. Part of the logic of this is that one of the things we determined early on was that we wanted to do this project not sequentially. In other words, we're doing two buildings. We didn't want to do the one after the other. Couple of reasons. First reason is it takes, if you think about it, if a contractor is going to come to a job and he's going to be there do a job that takes 9 months, he has 9 months of what are called general conditions, his costs of being there. If we did one building and then the other one, we would have a project of at least a year in length, which means our contractor has to be in the job for 3 more months. He has to charge us for 3 more months of general conditions. And we would end up working through all winter. And we didn't want to do that. So we set it up. Our plan is that our contractor will be on board in December. He or she will have about 3 months to prepare and get all ready. March 15th, we start the project. We tear down one building, the one building that's there. We start building both the other 2 buildings simultaneously so that we can be completely done by winter time. So that both our fire department and our public works department will have their homes back come Thanksgiving of next year. So project overview. we have drawings we can show you. You've looked around, you've seen, we have renderings of the buildings. These are really good likenesses of what the buildings will look like. They're not exactly correct. But they give you a good idea of what the buildings will look like. They're handsome buildings. They're not overstated. They're not overbuilt. But they look like something that I think we in our community can really be proud of. So we're going to build a 7,000 square foot fire station. We're going to build a 3,000 square foot public works building. In the cost of the project is also all of what they call site work or horizontal work or civil work, depending on what you want to call it. But it includes excavation, it includes demolition, it includes septic systems, it includes water, it includes underground electric. It includes power, so electrical power run to the buildings. I may have said that already. It includes all the paving and the sidewalks and the landscaping, all those things combined. So the project really has three pieces. It has the public works building, it has the fire department, it has a civil component. So we will estimate these three parts together to give us a good idea of what the project is going to cost. And that estimating is going to start very shortly. We may be including EV chargers per the state building code. So can we go and we'll take a quick look at I think the next slide is the fire station. So that is a wonderful rendering of how the fire station will look. There's no second floor, which we can talk about in a minute. Why are there windows up there? Well, the firemen have to practice getting people out of windows. And even though there aren't functioning windows, it gives them an opportunity to practice. So that's the fire department. And here's the public works garage. One of the things we have determined is that there's a carport on the left side, and we've determined that would best serve public works by being enclosed. The way the paving is laid out is not exactly the way it's going to be, but it's a pretty good idea of how the paving will work. So estimated costs. The estimated cost of the entire project, this is everything, soup to nuts, is about $5.2 million. Now, the first thing people go, why does it cost so much? Well, remember, what we've tried to capture in this budget are all the costs, not most of the costs, not some of the costs, and we have to go figure some things later. How do we make sure we get everything in? So I worked early on in the budget with the select board that gave them all the parts and pieces, the cost of the architectural and engineering design. I am a paid consultant, so my work, the cost of having specialty design work done for certain parts and pieces. So design, engineering, then there's management, the permit fees run about $30,000 with the state of Vermont, for example. And then we have electrical upgrades. We have Velco, who will have to do a couple of upgrades. Right now, there's one power pole. That power pole is insufficient to deal with the power supply for two buildings. It's actually insufficient to supply. If we had one building, it would be insufficient and incorrectly placed. So we have to have some work done by Velco. The construction cost is estimated, and then we have what's called in the construction parlance, FF&E, fixture, furnishings, and equipment. You can imagine any facility that is going to function for a public works building is going to have, they need lifts, they need specific equipment to go into the building. The fire department also has very specific needs. And so we have a category in our budget for furnitures, fixtures, and equipment. So that's part of what is in the budget. So our budget the intention is it's all encompassing. So we have our estimated construction cost at this point is $4.3 million. We are carrying a contingency of $361,000. Will we spend all that contingency? Lord, I hope not. But is it possible we could? Yes, it is. That just happens. Sometimes you spend it. A lot of times at this stage, a municipality will carry a 10% contingency. Ours is less, but we feel like we're in a good situation, and we know we have a reasonable idea of what the costs are going to be. The contingency, if it's unspent, just all that ends up being is we actually borrow less money on the bond. Okay, the construction budget. So we got that up there. Okay, pre-construction costs, engineering, architecture, management fees, permits, $263,000. Construction costs as noted. Fire station about 2.8, public works about 1.05, civil work about $500,000. There's our contingency, project management fees, which I'm happy to explain further if need be. Our furniture, fixtures and equipment, total cost $5.2 billion. Okay, now. Why is it so much? Well, the real question is why is it so little? Anybody who follows the cost of construction, and I ran a construction company for 35 years, is horrified by how much it costs to build things. I mean, horrified. For those of us in the industry, for years have been unable to stop the escalation of costs because we don't control the cost of materials. In many ways, we don't control the cost of labor. And there are fewer and fewer people to do construction work in Vermont and all over the United States. So wages are going up a little bit out of proportion with things. There is inflation. After the pandemic, there were certain materials that the cost went up at doubled. And they never came back down. Of course, what else is good? They never do. So costs have escalated substantially. If we had built the building 10 years ago, it would have cost perhaps half of what we're going to pay today. We build it 10 years from now, it's going to cost twice as much. So we have to stop and say, this is the time to do it. We'll get the best price we can from every aspect of the job, but we're going to build it now. So how have we eliminated costs? One of the first things we did was we eliminated the requirement for a salt shed. South Hero just spent $500,000 on a salt shed. We are not building a salt shed. Reason being is because our public works people have such a great relationship with the AOT people who are down here on the Station Road, that the state allows us to store sand there. So we don't need a salt shed. So that saved us somewhere between $300,000 and $500,000. Originally, the building was designed with 2 stories with the intention of the fact that there will likely come a day when even a small rural fire department like ours in North Hero will be required to be manned full time. That is a very real possibility that is moving in the direction of all of our small rural fire departments across the country. That may or may not happen, we don't know, but we thought it's not an investment we want to make now because we don't know if it's really going to happen. Likely, yes, absolutely no. So we eliminated, and just taking the second floor out of the right-hand side of the fire station saved us about $500,000. So the other thing is, like, as I mentioned before, we are going to build both the buildings at the same time. So building the buildings simultaneously will allow the contractor to shorten his window of time on the project. We optimized, and this is with the help of, with our architect, optimized the building envelope design and the mechanical designs. We sought for and found some less expensive ways to get our mechanical and electrical systems designed and built. So we've come up with a better solution on that. And then the other thing is important is that we're using a competitive bid strategy. A lot of times a town to give everybody a little bit of a cushion, will hire what is called a construction manager. The construction manager will go out to the subcon, he will get the drawings, he will go out and price this up with the subcontractors. But one of the problems with that approach is that the client, the town, never really knows what is the true market value today of this project, which is why we do a hard bid. We do a competitive bid. We have 3 or 4 or 5 general contractors who will bid the project. They'll come up with a fixed price and say, this is my price to build what you've drawn, which is one of the reasons why, even though we had an initial set of drawings from Mr. Konecko, we couldn't use those for bidding purposes. We needed much more thorough and complete drawings, which is why the town hired AES to do a complete design. We worked off of Konecko's work. It saved a substantial amount of money, but we still needed full and complete drawings. So that's what we're going to have. When you see the bid package come out, there'll be a thick spec book that will have all the specification for the project. There'll be multiple pages for the civil work, multiple pages for the electrical, multiple pages for the mechanic, multiple pages for the public work building, multiple pages for the fire department. then there'll be a narrative of how we want, the contractor to build our mechanical and our electrical. So that's some of the cost saving measures that we have taken. Project proposed funding, there is no accessible state or federal funding. The town has about $900,000 already set aside for the public works building. The Raise the Ladder campaign has raised more than $26,000 towards the cost of the project. And here's the one that everybody I know is interested in. We are proposing a $4.5 million municipal bond from the Vermont Bond Bank. And it says here a 20-year payback, which I'm sure will get discussed further. So projected impact of a $4.5 million bond. Real question. So the example, if $200,000 worth of assessed property value, it will cost you $260 a year over the span of the loan. You have $400,000 assessed property value, $520. If you were to have an $800,000 assessed property value, it would cost you about $1,040 a year. I don't think we have all that many properties that are in this top category. I think most of them will fall between the second two. So that is the cost. So that is, and we know you're going to have questions about that. We are fully prepared to answer those to the best of our ability tonight. Important dates today. September 15th is the select board will have its legal public information meeting, and then September 15th, we'll have our vote. So in the bond vote, the next one, approval of the bond vote will allow the town to borrow up to $4.5 million. Doesn't mean we're gonna borrow all of that. We'll only borrow as much as we have to, but we can't borrow more than that. And then in conclusion, our building has served the community for 52 years. The current facility has supported operations for over 5 decades, but the building really only had a life expectancy of about 30 years. The design for today and tomorrow, the fire station public works garage is tailored to meet not all the modern standards and future growth that we know is going to come. Our goal is that we're going to build buildings that will last us another 50 years, which should outlive at least some of us here. And then we've looked for the best value strategy. We've looked for the best value strategy and efficient planning and the resource management. So it will provide the greatest long-term benefit for the town. So that is everything I have in my initial presentation for the project. What we're going to do now is that we are going to take questions, and Todd Keyworth will handle the questions, and he'll parcel them out to whoever needs to address that particular item. We want you, if you have objections, to feel 100% free to tell us what your objections are. If we don't know, we can't address them. And if you have a better, if there is a better mousetrap, we don't think there is, but we're not opposed to listening to people say we have another idea. But this is a great time for people to be able to say, this is my concern. So I will turn it back over to Todd. Todd, if you would handle this, we're all set.
Thank you, Don. People understand any questions that you might have.
Just curious, when construction starts, where will our public works be working at again, fire station with all their equipment? How will that be? I mean, start tearing down the building.
Right.
You're gonna have to be
Right.
home somewhere.
Well-
Go ahead. You wanna do how it works? We're still gonna utilize the Omen station, being the warmer months of the year. We have the ability to store like the airboats, utility truck. We're gonna shuffle things around. We have the ability to, store some of these pieces at Open Boat Shop during the summer months, so they're secure. Preliminary discussion with Public Works. Some of their equipment needs to be in a safe and secure facility. So we're in deliberation with AOT about, kind of giving them a home up there. So we're kind of working out the final logistics of all that.
Mr. you have a question?
I'm Rick, I am a volunteer with Grand Isle Rescue, and my concern, sounds like everything's all set to go, but my concern is that, here in North Hero, we have Grand Isle Rescue responding to our needs here. And as our community gets older and there's more chances that we're gonna need an ambulance service, I was wondering, is it possible to have maybe a bay or something, a vehicle, ambulance of some kind in this fire department to respond to North Hero, rather than having somebody in Grand Isle go to the station, then pick up the ambulance and then drive it here? Why not have, say, a vehicle in, say, the fire department and have volunteers here instead of having to wait for Grand Isle to come? Why not have a bay of some kind?
Well, I can address that. We have, put the station floor planner. No, I'm just trying to cover this as quick as I can. Yeah, that one. So. Looks like we're just over 4,000 square feet, not quite enough for double stack with our pieces of apparatus. However, given our current inventory, what will be remaining in the Oma station will remain in the Oma station. We have ample room for what is currently housed in the North Station. Plus our, marine response boat. And the 1955 Mac B, that is the fire department's antique that's been with the department since Jack was on it. So we're not really gonna let that go. So all that will fit in here. And we have left some extra room for additional growth. Should there be a need for an ambulance in North Hero, there is room, this apparatus bay for that.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Can I, just one more thing on that. I think that from hearing Mike and others talk about rescue. Rescue is a complicated issue sort of on its own. And it's not just a simple sort of plug and play thing is what the way you made it sound, Mike. It takes, it's not just having the piece of equipment.
Right, probably the best person to speak on that type of logistics would be Assistant Chief Reed.
Yeah, so as he implied, I'm the assistant chief for South Hero Fire. We do have a, hybrid fire station with both fire and rescue as separate organizations under one roof. There was a bit of a learning curve of combining our two organizations into one building and maintaining our independent identities. Certainly, from a response model, volunteers and where they're coming from and when they're available vary month to month. Depending on who's available and what town they're living in and whether, just as likely as someone responding from Grand Isle to Grand Isle Station to pick up an ambulance, you might have somebody would be taking your ambulance from North Hero back to Grand Isle, in that situation. So it's a very fluid situation. I believe Grand Isle Rescue is also staffing a lot of the daytime hours, with people at the station. You would know better than I would, but I believe you guys have per diems, volunteers. So then the question comes down to is you're trying to get volunteers to stay both, at Grand Isle and at North Hero, which is a very difficult thing to find that amount of personnel. And if you have somebody that's at the Grand Isle station that's ready to respond, having a first responder in North Hero that can go directly while they bring the ambulance, generally will yield a very similar level of care. So it is a very complicated thing. It does take some logistics. It takes, some trust in the other people and access and who you're, where everybody gets to live and be, but it, I don't see why it couldn't happen here.
What I was thinking is maybe the first responder in Ontario could have access to maybe a response vehicle sometimes, it doesn't have to be an ambulance.
Yep.
Maybe you could
Yeah.
give the first aid and have the splints, whatever that patient needs, while the ambulance is on its way.
We, fire department did, we formed a, small committee. We have actually, five EMTs, a couple of ECAs, we're all CPR AED certified. We did, look into, forming a first response group, much like South Hill Fire has done. The determination was, could we do it now? Yes, we could. We decided to wait. With this project looming, we wanted to see how, this was gonna unfold. So we just kind of set that, we picked our priorities and we just kind of set that off of the back burner. It's not a no. But we decided to take our priorities and go down that list and hit those check boxes. So we have looked into it and so it's not totally that clear. So the answer to your question is yes, it's doable.
Well, when you say priorities, I think there's more ambulance calls than there are fire calls. And so that's why I was thinking that it might be important to have some sort of unit station.
Yes, so do we have the train, on our department, do we have the trained personnel to manage a first response? Yes. Are they all on Grand Isle Rescue? No. Some are on Alberg, some were with Grand Isle, some are trying to take a break from both of them, just focusing on fire. So it's not, when I say priorities, I was not on the committee, but the group felt that we should wait a while and. We're watching how our brothers and sisters in South Bureau are doing with their first response. So it's not off the table, and when I say, it's by all means, I mean, patient care is priority here and throughout the county, so. It's not a off the table deal.
Just like I think what we proposed here, aside from maybe having to, add 2 walls to form a second office for a rescue. I think the capacity exists within the existing building footprint to support that. The operational, whether you should or not, comes down to negotiations between Grand Isle Rescue, whether they want to do that or not, and the fire department. I will say, I am on the first response group in South Hero, and a majority of our members don't want to actually join rescue. We're interested in providing that first initial stabilizing care, but we have people that are running career EMS and running to the hospital 10 times a day, and when they come home, they want to stay in town. And so they don't want to be on a transporting agency, so they do the first response, they stabilize, and then they also stay in town in case there's a second call. So that if the ambulance is out on a call, there is still somebody in town that's not transporting that can respond to that second call. So I think the important part is, as far as the building goes, the investment that the town's making, I think it has the size and capacity to fit a response vehicle up to the size of an ambulance. And I think the meeting room is adequately sized that if you had to carve out another office from that, I think that space is there.
Thanks.
Any other?
I was wondering, on the east island, what's been broken down, what's available on? And then a few research grants, just how much research has been done on it?
Before we answer, Doug, were there any other questions or concerns about the rescue piece? And I'll turn it over to you, Brian.
On what?
The funding.
The funding? Yeah, well, we have just over $900,000 in the public works account that was amassed over a number of years. And the rules had changed there so that we were able to use it not just for, highway stuff, but we were able to use it in the general fund. So we decided to take those monies along with ARPA monies and start saving there for a public works building. The other funding there, which was unfortunate there, was that, the fire department, we give the fire department or the voters vote in $30,000 a year. That's a pretty low number. Okay. The rest of it there, they make their truck payments, their purchases, whatever there with the help of the auxiliary, their turnout gear and everything. They do that through their fund drives. And they do it through, memorials and this and that. So when this got going there, they were basically at zero, for their building. However, there's definitely a need for these buildings. So we have the bond vote. And it is, if you read it, it is up to 4.5 million. Yeah, go ahead, Doug.
What's bond rate?
Lisa, the bond rate is what, for?
For interest rate,
Yes.
20-year.
So the loan right now is higher than the previous by a percent. That long rates are up. 11%.
A 10-year note would be 3.53%. 30-year note goes to 4.5.
Any opportunities for grants down the road?
That we're not aware of at this point in time.
Early on, approximately 7 months ago, I met with two individuals from Sanders' office, actually invited them to the North Station. Showed them preliminary drawings, explained the project, gave a tour of the fire station. Demonstrated a need. And that's kind of where that ended. Other areas of Vermont due to flooding, got some very welcome congressional funding. Town of Woodbury received a grant for their fire station, because previous year it had flooded. Other grants, we're looking at some smaller ones like backup power, which would cover the cost of the generator and switching devices for both buildings. Gonna pursue a grant for the exhaust extraction pieces, which would be on the apparatus base. So we're looking at taking away at some of these items. But as far as fire station grants, not really much out there.
You had something?
Yeah, Mike and I actually spent part of a day on the phone with the state of Vermont, trying to find out exactly what they might be able to do, and they said, well, we have grants for salt sheds, but only if you have salt sheds that are leaching salt into the lake or into a water supply, and pretty much we don't have that situation. So in general, one of the issues with grants and those kind of things is you're dependent on the government to supply the money when they say they're going to. And you have to know it's going to be supplied well in advance. We have no guarantee. There is no guarantee of if we got some kind of grant, whether or not it would survive into a second year of budgeting in the way the government is operating right now. So we considered, okay, do we want to press on and try to find some more places to find grants? Well, the problem is they always come with restrictions. And it's a little tenuous right now, as you can well imagine if you're paying any attention to the news, how our government is spending money is not necessarily in alignment with the kind of ideas that might get us this kind of grant. So that's not a specific answer, it's a really general answer, but I've been watching this go on and I ran Stewart Construction for 35 years and it's now, I've retired. But Stewart Construction is building a project up in Allberg and a parent-child center. And there are a number of grants that came out for this. And the grant, both the organization in Allberg, the granting organization and the construction company, being Stewart Construction, have really struggled to make this work. It's, I've done this a number of times there. It's very hard to build things on. We're looking at a project that we expect to go very quickly. And we're asking our contractor to commit to a very short time frame. And if the money gets held up anywhere along the way, that throws an incredible monkey wrench into that. And so that's one of the reasons why we haven't really tried to force the issue of grants and those kind of things. Sometimes the money is small and it doesn't have a great impact, but it can slow the whole process down. So
I can speak to two of those things as well. So my firm, we have one, had dedicated staff members that's all they do is grant research, grant compliance. We're involved with the South Hero Town Office as well. We spent 80 hours researching grants for the town office and really came up with nothing for municipal new construction right now. There's some things out there for minor renovations, HVAC improvements, like pieces. But when you break down to some of those really small pieces, I have a project that's in Plattsburgh right now that has a federal grant and the grant's for less than 10% of the project. And we've spent 9 months trying to fill out the compliance paperwork to get that money. And so unless you can find a grant that's big enough to support a good chunk of the project, you're almost guaranteed you're not going to get more than 75 cents on the dollar because you're going to have to do the compliance paperwork that goes with that. And sometimes it really just doesn't make sense. So to sum up, we've recently, it's about 6 or 8 months ago, researched heavily with Northwest Regional Planning Commission and state and government agencies trying to find municipal new construction grants for this region and came up with 1 or 2 that we thought we had maybe a 40% chance of winning. And ultimately South Hero chose not to pursue. And then just the recent history of, if you don't find something that's got a big enough pot of money to pull from, it's really tough to sometimes make that money worth it by the time you finish the application and compliance piece of it. So the congressionally directed defense spending and reaching out to Sanders and our other reps is really probably the highest chance of success. And it sounds like that's been done. So.
I just have a follow-up question. Obviously municipal building is already 90% funded. So if the bond doesn't go through, will we build a new municipal building? Then. You said you had $900,000
On the other lot.
cost. If you have no building.
Well,
So is it all or nothing project or?
well, I'm of the belief there that, this has been pretty well laid out. In order to change gears now, is going to add additional expense. Okay, so, if you're dealing with a $1 million building there with the additional expense, which would then require other permits, that'd be refiling of permits there because now it's a change of use here or whatever. I don't think that it would make sense as far as from a cost standpoint.
If the bond doesn't go through, cancel the project.
The bond doesn't go through there, we'll take a closer look there at all the numbers again, and then we'll come back for another vote.
As a full project, let's say.
Total project. Yeah. I mean, the fire department, whether or not, it's been asked of me, they're saying, well, why doesn't the fire department, you put the public works building on the other lot. Fire department stays where it is. you gotta renovate that building too. Which really means dismantling quite a bit of it, you know? I just think that's throwing good money after bad, you know?
I was looking,
Yep,
if this gonna continue to come back to the total value, if they come back to 7.
no, I'm not of that opinion at this point in time.
Any other questions?
So why is the public works just over $1 million and the fire department almost 3? What's the differences here? Nobody's laid any of that out.
Yeah, the fire department is a much larger building. You know, it's more than double the square footage of the town garage. The fire department also has more infrastructure and more facilities associated with it. It's supporting the volunteer staff of, you know, between the fire and auxiliary 30 people. Whereas, you know, the public works, you're supporting 2 full-time employees. So, you know, we have, there's a much bigger, you know, training component. There's, you know, more bathrooms in this building. They're due to the nature of firefighting and limiting liability and cancer, separate bathrooms and shower facilities for contaminated, volunteers to come back and be able to clean without tracking that into the meeting room and training room side of things. Just more infrastructure with the SCBA and laundry and other pieces of that. And really just that it's a much bigger building is really what drives a lot of that cost difference.
Now, you talked about furnishing it with lifts and stuff, Don. Are our public works people gonna get trained, or maybe we should have the ambulance next door? I mean,
You think it's gonna end up there anyway?
Well, I mean, it's just, if they're not trained on this stuff.
I don't think that, in our discussions, on the replacement committee and with Tracy. These are basic lifts for things like raising up your mower so you can clean underneath it. But there are,
Not a vehicle lift.
not, it's not,
Right,
thank you,
okay.
thank you. It's not-
There's no talk of vehicle lift, they're 4-point lift kit system.
Alright,
That's gonna lift up the tandem or 1 ton. or
It's,
that nature.
these are, they aren't going to be replacing motors and things like that, but they have to be able to get underneath their vehicles. When that plow is on, they have to be, or the other thing is they need equipment to be able to repair damage to, they need welders and those kind of things. So those are the kind of things that fall into that category of furniture, fixtures and equipment.
okay,
And hydraulic jack, just think of a hydraulic jack,
There you
not
go.
a lift.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, one of the things like the air compressor that the town garage uses now is also shared with the fire
Right.
department to keep the
Yeah,
air brakes
double up.
charged. So like, now that they're splitting buildings, we're gonna need another air compressor. That's an item that would be FF&E budget. Tables, chairs, desks for the office, like those are all kind of the FF&E things
Right.
that budget's meant to support.
Audio visual equipment. All those things go into that budget, so we have a pot of money. In that $5.2 million to cover all of those things. Some of them may be covered by, they may be covered by a grant that Mike's able to get, or they may be covered by the Raise the Ladder fund, but. They have to be accounted for. We don't account for them, that we aren't doing our due diligence as the group who's looking over the budget.
If you don't mind there, Lisa, if you could, so take a good look at that layout. Now, if you have the Public Works building, you'll see how much simpler the Public Works.
Yeah.
Right there. It's a lot,
That makes sense. I mean,
it's
but you
a
guys
lot
haven't put
smaller.
any of that out.
What's that?
You haven't put any of that out to the public, so people are just seeing, municipal garage at 1 million and then a fire station at 4 million.
Well, I
No.
beg to differ on that, Bob. We've had numerous meetings.
Where have you put this out? This was not in that flyer you sent out. It was a picture of the outside building, Carl.
It was a rendition of the exterior,
What
that's
I'm
correct.
saying is that maybe if you would have put these floor plans in, people could understand what's the variation in cost.
Well, I think if they came into the building here and took a look at these other renditions there, they see the floor plans there, they see what the exterior is gonna be like. You know, as well as I do, you're dealing with a 3,000 square foot building versus a 7,000 square foot building.
Yes,
So, you know, I mean, as far as to put it out, yes, we've had to redo these interior designs here a bit, okay, to try to be as cost effective as possible. So I mean, as far as to put something out, things have already changed somewhat from those renditions, as Don pointed out in the beginning. You know, we're looking at enclosing that carport, which is just cold storage. Okay, so if we need to keep on going back to a printer and going back to a printer, that costs money too.
That's one reason we're here tonight.
right.
And
Well, I'm
present
just saying, you know,
You
the
know-
more info you can get out, the better, but I mean.
Right.
I'm not sure about the deal of, okay, I'm gonna put this out to bid after the town has said, okay, we bonded for 5.2 million. So every contractor around is gonna be like, hey, well, I guess I can get 4.5 for doing this project. I don't understand how that works.
But-
Y-
Yeah, may I speak to that?
Yeah,
Okay, all right. So, a couple of things. We're happy to figure out a way to get the information about the floor plans out to people. You are the first person who has asked anything about any of the floor plans at any point in time to me, as far as I know of anybody else. So it's a really valid question, but it is a question that not everybody is all that concerned about. They're really more concerned about, well, how much does it cost? Why is it? So,
well, I like to see what I'm getting, you know, for my dollar.
fair enough. So then maybe we can figure out a way to get these floor plans out there. There are some viable ways to do that. Maybe that's all I really had to say, and that is that we can figure out a way to get that information out. We don't know exactly what the building's going to cost to go yet. You don't know until you get the bids back from the contractors. The contractors will know that we have a budget for the building of X number of dollars, which will be somewhere in the neighborhood of $4.3 million. Your contract with the general contractor will be only for the cost of the demolition and the construction of the two buildings. There will be he won't have any responsibilities for any of what we call the soft costs that we talked about.
Right.
The contingencies or the design, none of those things. They will bid only on what is on the drawings. So there'll be a set of drawings, they'll bid on that. The nature of competitive bid is that people determine how aggressive they want to be to get the project. There are some disadvantages to being in North Huron. It's not Chittenden County, it's a little easier to get subcontractors to work for you. You're a little more remote here, and so it's a little harder to get people, so the contractors will have to work a little harder to find people. They may pay slightly higher prices for contractors to work here than they would if they were in somewhere in Chittenden County. But we will know the true market value, what it really should cost. If you hire a construction manager, they come in and they say, well, it's gonna cost this much. Well, you don't know why it's gonna cost that much. Even if they give you all the information in the world, you still don't know how they came. Believe me, I've done this long enough to know. You just don't really know exactly why it costs what it costs.
There is also a benefit to actually sharing that numbers, and it gets the contractors that are the appropriate scale for your project interested in the project. So if you had a very large firm like DW and PC Construction and REARC bidding on this project, they have a very high overhead rate and they're not really the right necessarily fit. Some of them have special project divisions, like I know PC has one that they do, you know, they pick a couple projects a year and do something of this scale, and they kind of have a separate, you know, space for that, but. And I can tell you from putting out multiple projects a year for bid, that if I don't put a estimated project cost on the bid, it's the first question that comes in. Because they, you know, it's the first kind of like filtering rule of like, is this a project for me?
Okay.
So you don't know on the list what your bond amount is for, but you want to list kind of your best wish price. And your bids will generally come in slightly over that, but only you kind of know the difference between your best wish price and what your hard money price is. But by listing that kind of best wish price, you tell all the contractors that, you know, can do a building of this size and cost. It's one of the things that filters out and, you know, they go, oh, that's either too small for me, or, oh, that's too big for me. It really helps get the right contractors interested, because a lot of these buildings can be built by, you know, a GC that's got 5 people, you know, under them. Like, you don't need a massive firm to build a 3,000 square foot garage.
So part of that scaling operation with the contractors is, the contractors on this job will need to provide a performance of payment bond to guarantee that the work will be done. And that is factored into their cost of doing business. Whereas they provide, it's not like, well, what happens if the contractor goes out of business? Well, if the contractor goes out of business, there's an insurance company behind him who will finish the project for the money that is left in the project. That's the requirement of a municipal project. So any public project done has a construction performance and a payment bond. So again, that's a scale issue. You aren't gonna get Engelberg Construction to bid this. We don't want a local house builder to bid this. We need the people who they have to be able to provide that construction bond. So they have to have enough structure in their company to be able to do it. That also will tell us that they have enough structure to understand how to drive a schedule. And that this is not being built by a guy in a pickup truck. If it takes him a year and a half, he doesn't care. It takes him all it takes him. That's not true. You got 9 months to build this, or else. And there will be an or else clause in the contract. There will be a penalty. If the contractor is late, they'll be penalized.
Okay.
I'm trying from the very beginning. So our question is, what kind of buffer zone you are going to have for this project? In 2020, we discussed a buffer zone on our property that has not materialized. And so we want to know if something's gonna happen like that to give us the buffer zone that was promised back then.
We're at 88 Pine Grove Circle, so we're directly behind you.
The whole
where you
project.
Propose to build this.
Well, screening was put in. Okay, there are some trees there and they've been doing very well.
Yeah, that's what's the original tree.
Well, and they don't, of course, you know, I mean, you take look at an architect's plan there, they show full growth there.
Yeah, we know that's not true.
Well, it takes a while, right? It,
5-foot tree, I don't think I'll be around to see.
well, it takes a while there for those to grow on up.
In 2020, privacy fence.
Yeah,
And then 2 more layers of trees that would be alternated to the fence to keep some of the noise and stuff down until the trees had time to grow. That was supposed to happen in 2020 and nothing has happened. So
Originally,
we just wanna know
it
if
was
that's
supposed
still
to
in
be
the
30
plan.
feet from our property line now. It was supposed to be a buffer.
well, when you say a buffer, what,
I
are
mean,
we
buffer
talking?
The trees were supposed to be remaining that were there, and those were cut out.
And those were all taken out, remember? When we went through this way back when the pandemic came out and
And I believe a lot of those trees though that were taken out there were dead pine trees.
well, I'm not gonna dispute what was dead. and what
Well,
was-
I'm just saying they were taken out
I'm
there.
just
because they were
saying
dead.
that numerous times we
Mhm.
tried to get things organized.
Yeah.
We were promised a fence.
Yeah.
Well, that never happened. We were promised trees planted,
Yeah.
you know. I was expecting probably 2 rows of trees or something. I only got 5 trees.
Yeah.
And this high.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
You could walk right
how
through.
does that do?
well, I'll talk to our public works guy here and we'll see there as far as to,
I mean, I would love to see this built and everything, I'm not against that. I just was promised this and promised that, and we nothing's
We
ever,
just want some privacy from it.
ever
Yeah.
came about it.
It's very understandable.
And we're just trying to protect our investment.
Yep.
To say, you know, now we're opening up to Route 2 and now we're opening up to a fire station here,
Yeah.
Think,
you know?
I think the conditions letter from the DRB had a list of conditions and screening and.
They did.
I think they were in there.
It is.
Yeah.
The screening's in there. So,
Cause right now we have erosion coming from the field. Through the area. And I've been trying to kind of build it back up with a tractor, but it seems to wash right away. So,
well, there will be a retention area
yeah,
that'll be dug in there also.
yeah,
Okay, because that's where the,
which should be, yeah,
yeah, that's where the surface water
Yeah.
there is going to
yeah.
flow on into that retention pond,
And
you know.
we kept the trees on our side. You know, but it was that agreement when we bought the property.
Yep.
That there was a 30-foot buffer saying trees. That would align our property to your property for the station and your town garage.
Yeah.
Your town garage sits back a little ways, so that's not the issue, but where you propose to build this is the issue.
Which this has also changed, because the original plan was actually a little closer to the property line,
Right.
the original one. Now, this one here,
So you're
we've tried to-
Ralph?
we're gonna be a little further away from your property. So,
Yeah, you got the.
Yeah, there is a site plan in
There
there.
is a
Yeah,
there it is.
here it is. Okay, so yours.
Do you have-
Go ahead,
Is there a footage from the proposed building to the property line?
that's what I'm gonna ask.
That west?
See,
I can't see that.
Based on the scale on the right.
I got
it.
Yeah, because we haven't seen it.
Yeah,
Well, I'll say, so, you know, these plans and the floor plans that you're seeing tonight are, I mean, I was literally working on the floor plan this morning.
yeah,
You know, we're trying to catch up from where, you know, picking up from
Yeah.
Robert Knico, and I know, Krebs and Lansing was working on I got this plan from him yesterday.
yeah.
So a lot of this is very much in the works.
Is your property on the left-hand side, all the way over here on the left, or is it is it along the back?
Along the
Directly in
back.
the back.
Right along the back, so,
Oh,
So it's actually the whole,
There we go.
the whole
Okay.
thing along that property is ours.
Okay, so
Yeah.
here's my question. Did you see what was in the DRB and the DRB requirements? And is that what you're expecting, or was there something else said?
there was something else said that we came.
We had a Zoom meeting with
We had a
DRB
Zoom
in
meeting,
2020.
With the DRB?
yeah,
Okay. Could I ask,
yeah,
if we understand your concern, I 100% get it, if you've
Yeah.
been promised something, then we owe that to you. If you wouldn't mind, I am ignorant on this one.
yeah,
If you would let me get personally involved in this, I'll help sort this out for you.
I sure.
Would that be
would.
okay?
Yeah, that's
That'd,
perfect.
that'd be fine.
Let me do that, because if we need to add if that screening needs to be part of the construction work,
Yep.
then we have some landscaping work we have to do. If we can
Yeah.
supply it some other way, we'll do that. Let me get to the bottom of what the DRB said, what was said to you, so I need to get those two coordinated. So we get you what you were promised.
We have documents and recordings and everything.
We'll so we can get together afterwards.
I mean, it should be in DRB
If,
too.
if
There
you
should
don't,
be-
if you don't mind, I think that'll take it out of this venue.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
we can deal with it. We understand your concern, and we will deal with this.
we love the fire department and everything there, but it's just, we want our privacy too.
Understood. Totally.
That's why I live here.
Jack, I think you have a question.
Yeah, my thoughts on this are that if the bond vote fails, I would like the committee. I realize the condition of the town garage. And, it is in need of repair and so on and so forth. And I feel that the fire department is our priority. And I'm not degrading the town garage or the people that work for us. But I just think that biting the bullet is a bit much right now. And if we can get another 8-10 years out of the existing building, I think it's completely doable. I realize the condition of that west wall. It's been that way ever since I was on the select board. And the building's still standing. And like I said, my thought is that we can get another 10 years out of it. We do it. Help the fire department. To me, that's a priority. When your house is going up in smoke, the town garage or the town equipment isn't gonna be much value to it, where the fire department is.
So what are you saying, Jack, as far as with, to go to build the fire department?
To me, the fire department's a priority. I lost a house in a house fire down on Pelos Point. And so I know what it's like.
So how do we get to that point?
Come back to the voters if this fails and prioritize the fire department. Making the,
Well, if you take a look at the numbers at this point in time, that the Public Works building is almost funded. So really, what's being asked for here is for the fire department.
well. I just feel that the existing town garage can service for another 8-10 years and prioritize the fire department.
Okay.
If the bond fails,
You're saying take the 900,000, put it towards the fire department?
if need be,
If the
take
bond-
100,000 of it and make the improvements to the existing town garage. And dump the rest of it into the fire department. It's all town money.
Correct.
Whether it's fire department, town garage, or, you know,
Yeah, it's your money.
I would say it's a reasonable suggestion, so on was passed. For tonight's discussion is about the proposal on the table.
I have a question for Mike again. I wasn't really paying a lot of attention to what was going on, so I'm really appreciative of tonight. I've learned a lot, very detailed. And I don't want to, cause us to go longer than we would have hoped tonight. But I'd like to see more detail on Plan B for when the shed is taken down and we need a interim plan for the fire department. I didn't really understand everything that you said, and it sounded like it wasn't as worked out, if, you know, we're still early in that, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But before we start anything, I really like the comfort level of what Plan B is with fire department.
So fortunately, at this station, which houses a tanker and pump. Okay. So probably when it comes time, the smaller pumper which is parked in the rear. The main engine, which is the new one parked out front, and the tanker will be put into the station.
It just seems like such a tiny building compared to.
Well, actually,
Hard to imagine.
when I was much younger, there was 3 trucks in that building, but they had grown. So now we can only put 2. So yes, that will leave the north end kind of, I won't say unprotected, but a few minutes further away. But as far as the equipment goes, the utility truck sees, wildfire responses, marine responses, ice rescue responses, which is one of the vehicles down there. Excuse me, the other one is the airboat. Being there is no ice during the proposed construction period. Those two pieces will probably be stored in that indoor storage at Norfolk Boat Shop. So, will North Bureau be without fire protection? No. And we will have, we will still have access to all of our apparatus. Stuff will be stored safely and securely. And we will just be, responding out of this station for March to whenever it's complete. If that's how this goes. We get it.
Thank you.
I would have to say that that's a really good point. We wish we had better clarity right now, exactly what's, particularly for public works, but also somewhat for the fire department. We'll have that. By the time we get to the project, remember, we don't start construction for really about 8 months. So we have some time. We've had to prioritize how to work on getting this project to move forward. So we know we have to deal with this. We know we're going to have to prevail upon AOT to help us out. We know the fire department's gonna have to do a little bit of a song and dance to make things work. But trust me, we understand the need for them to be fully operational during this time. So we understand that, and we have no better way to accommodate it than to get the work done as quickly as possible. There are other ways to accommodate it, but not better ways. So that's why we chose this sort of truncated, aggressive schedule to get them where they can leave the building when it's basically the winter's over and be back in before the winter begins. So that's how we tried to do this.
And our mutual aid partners, Grand Island, Bureau, South Bureau, the other islands. We're all pretty much automatic for just about every call. And they're well on their way.
Yeah, that's a good question. On the plot plan, you get new buildings. Is the old building basically that open second? Layout?
Your existing building is this light gray line down here.
Okay, so that's the existing. building.
Yeah, so your existing building is here.
Oh, that's easy. So what new garage here?
Yeah.
Same. That.
Is that clear enough? Do you understand that?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I was just curious of what. Where the. Deconstruction is gonna be, where the new construction was. So basically, the fire department. Is. Green grass, so that's technically set anytime.
Correct.
Municipal building, that's where the exchange is.
One of the things we will ask the contractor is, if he's happy to leave that building up for another 3 months. Well, that'd be great, but it won't allow him to finish that building 3 months later. So that would be a contractor's choice, and if it is a benefit to us, maybe it's a negotiating tool.
Would it benefit us if you started construction? You finished the build, the fire department, and then you move, you continue, was that kind of savings?
No, that was maybe I didn't do a good job of explaining that. One of the things that we looked for in how to approach this as an entire project was, how do we keep the cost of the contractor down?
Right, what I'm asking is. How you start a project, and how you lay it out. Manpower, if you did it both buildings, you did a double in manpower, if you had a single manpower. You could run one building to the next building, that's why I'm wondering if you had the fire department on first, everything would move.
What you'll end up with likely is that the process of the town garage will be perhaps 30 days behind the fire department. but that's all.
Well, what's the advantage?
Go ahead.
So some of the savings that Don's identified by combining the two, one was the general conditions that you talked about, which is like how long the contractor has to have insurance on the site. And I think if you build an entire building first or majority of and then shift, I think you are gonna run into more than the, 8, 9 months that you're talking about. The other one is mobilization costs. The mobilization costs to get equipment and people to a site is a huge factor. And so when they have a bulldozer here and they have their excavators here, being able to work on the whole thing at once, you don't have to pay for them to, because they're not gonna leave their bulldozer there for 3 months while you're, waiting around.
Do you know what the differential is?
I expect that the approach we're taking is going to save us between 10 and 15%, perhaps as high as 20%. In part because we're not paying for the other thing we're doing this way is we don't pay for the cost of working in winter, which are called winter conditions. Because winter conditions,
You won't have, if you build the fire department.
we cannot, the window is too short. The window's only not about 9.5 months. The window is too short to build one and completely finish one and start on the other. If the window's just too short. There's no-
Together, you can build the fire department, and actually build the.
That, so this go, now you've split this project into two totally different years.
Right.
You're gonna add about 20% to the cost. From experience, and I did this for 35 years, you're talking about 20% more money.
Really?
Yep.
Even besides the bulldozer, it's also just to get the mechanical guy to show up.
And just think about the fact, how well do you know how much materials are gonna cost in 2027 as opposed to 2026? One of the reasons we set this up the way we did for the contractor is he can buy out his whole project in the 3 months before the project starts, so he has a price guarantee. Prices go all over the place during a project, and you cannot factor, you would have to put in at least a 10% material bump if you were gonna buy some materials in 2027 as opposed to 2026. The other thing is it's not a big enough project that you would like to come back. You'd like to do something like this. It's sort of a nice size for a contractor. We'll find a bunch of interested people. But if you spread this out over a long period of time, interest level will go down immediately. I know this from experience. So we considered all the options and came up with the best one we could come up with was to try to basically get the contractor to do all the work in a fairly short period of time. As much as it dislocated both the fire department and public works, the best way to do it was this way.
Any other questions? Any comments? Anything you really like to add?
I just, want to get back to the man in the hat, his comments. Would the board consider, if the bond doesn't pass, that we do focus on putting the whatever we have, 100,000 into the fire department, make the fire department our priority, and just have the town garage stay where they are, even if it's for 1, 2, 3, 4 years, until we can raise more money for the town garage?
Well, I'm sure we take it under consideration.
Like I said, the fire department should be our. That would have to go back to the voters. The voters have approved the $900,000 to be put aside for the fire garage, that's been assigned by the voters. So that would have to go back to the voters to make that change. It's not something that's like.
Well, that would be on the March.
Anything else?
I've got just one more thing. On that brochure that everybody got in the mail is my phone number and my email address. And if you have questions, call me, email me. If people have issues they want to talk about, have them call me or email me. I'm available. I live right there. And this is, I'm in this all the way. So I want to, if people have questions or issues, or they want to talk about the vote, or they have something specific, by all means, have them call me. I will get back. If I don't answer immediately, I'll get back to anybody, or if email, same thing. So my name is out there. It's publicly in a bunch of places.
If there's no more questions or comments, then thanks for their part of the book.
Yes.
Just wanted to thank you all for taking your time to give us this information.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Get a beer.
I'm on board.
Oh, right next door.
Here.